What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for April 3rd, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast. Let's start off like we always do with some quick housekeeping. First, as I always say, I try to give everything as accurately as possible. Yesterday, I think I said Jason Grimsley never pitched again. That was, in fact, not true. He did not pitch for the Astros after the trade for Curt Schilling. However, he did go on to pitch for a few teams throughout the rest of his career and did win 2 World Series titles with the Yankees. But the fact remains that this trade, Jason Grimsley for Curt Schilling, was one of the better ones in Phillies history. And we always talk about the bad ones. This was certainly ranks up there, and maybe that's something we'll do this summer, the best free agent moves as opposed to the worst, or free agent moves or trades. But wanted to make sure everything was accurate for you. Jason Grimsley did pitch, just not for the Astros after the trade. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, on Instagram at PhillyJimbo. I've been telling you this, but be sure to check out my social media. That's where I show clips and highlights and just different artifacts and memorabilia from whatever we're talking about that day. Showed some of Curt Schilling's highlights yesterday. All of that is available on my social media, including Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So be sure to check me out there. And then subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread that word as we try to grow this thing. Have been having some meetings recently, so some good things are on the horizon. Still in the process. I know I've been saying this, I feel like, for a year of trying to upgrade the presentation and some of my equipment. So stay tuned for that. Good things are coming, but everything you need is either on my social media or on the YouTube channel, including highlights and clips from this day in Philly sports history. And then don't forget, tomorrow we spend Fridays with AI. I'm still trying to tweak what we're going to do or how I'm going to present this, but we're going to sit down and have a discussion and an interview with a former legend in the Philadelphia region in honor of the Final Four. So stay tuned for that. Again, still trying to figure out details tomorrow on that. All right, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. We just mentioned Curt Schilling. Yesterday was traded for Jason Grimsley back in 1992. My question to you, is Curt Schilling a Hall of Famer? Overwhelmingly, 83% of you said yes. Lots of good discussion, as I thought, on my social media. So if you're not there, go check it out. The discussions are great. Kyle from Coatesville basically said yes, the numbers, he is there. He was well on his way while he was with the Phillies. Cemented that legacy with Arizona and Boston, and it's more the voters holding personal biases and personal grudges against players that keep them out. But Curt Schilling, no real scandals as far as steroids or anything like that, certainly should be in. Bill from Flowertown, our old pal Bill, summed it up best, I think, when he said Curt Schilling is a dick. He's a Hall of Fame dick, but he's a dick. And that, to me, is the best description of Curt Schilling. So, again, you can't let your personal bias, maybe you didn't like the guy, and that's fine, but does not take away from what they've done. I mean, I go through that all the time on this podcast with when we have to talk about St. Joe's doing well or Villanova doing well. Not a big fan of those schools. But I cannot let that interfere with a Philly sports podcast. So Hall of Fame voters, get your head out of your asses and put Curt Schilling in. And then Frank from Philly went through the numbers. And obviously Curt Schilling's numbers say he's deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. But I really do think, and Frank said it best, he might be one of the best big game pitchers in Major League Baseball history. You look what he did during that 93 run for the Phillies. You look what he did in Arizona. I mean, whether or not it was fake or not, the bloody sock in Boston, legendary stuff there in big games. So Curt Schilling, Hall of Fame voters, do the right thing and put Curt Schilling in, hopefully before he passes away. Don't do what you did to Dick Allen and put him in after he passes away. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. There will be another one here later in the show. And Let's go to the Phillies. Good, solid win, I think, for them yesterday. 5-1. Zach Wheeler is just a stud, and I think he's probably underrated in Major League Baseball. I don't know if we appreciate just how good he is either. And this isn't like a Donovan McNabb or Ryan Howard type of underappreciation. I just don't think we realize how good Zach Wheeler is. Set a team record for his 13th straight start, going 6 innings pitched, allowing 2 earned runs or less, tying the late 40s Phillies Dutch Leonard for the team record. But he just goes out there and you know what you're going to expect from him every time out there. And I think it's time we start appreciating him more, because I think he's sort of just thrown in there because he's very workmanlike, doesn't say a ton, isn't like the guy that's in your face, rah-rah, very quiet, soft-spoken dude, but goes out there and just dominates. So Zach Wheeler with another great game. We did get some hits off the starting pitching yesterday, which, I mean, sure, it's the Rockies, but hey, that's good. I would like to see more of that today. Saw some Johan Rojas doing some good bunting. He went 2 for 2 and had a stolen base or two. But the bunt he has, if he can do that consistently, like, yes, believe it or not, the Phillies played a little small ball yesterday. But if Johan Rojas, that was like the first thing I wrote down in my notes from the game yesterday. That bunt was picture perfect, caught the Rockies off guard, and if he can add that to his arsenal, maybe that gives the Phillies a little bit of leeway at the trade deadline to maybe trade for a power-hitting infielder, move Bryce back to the outfield, and then you can trust Johan to do something. And Mundo Sosa was great. He's hitting like 600 to start the season. And I don't know. Everybody's saying, oh, he should start. He should be in the lineup more. I don't know if he's you need him like in spurts like this. But great game for him. Trey Turner hit leadoff, had 3 hits and an RBI. Seeing some pitches, actually doing his job as a leadoff hitter. Pleasantly surprised with that one. But overall, solid win for the Phils. Braves still have not won a game, but finish up this afternoon against the Rockies and then that big weekend series against the Dodgers, who are undefeated. It'd be nice for the Phillies to go into that series with the Dodgers. It's 5-1. It's going to be must-watch TV all weekend. But, of course, we need to get through today, and taking the mound for the Phillies is Taijuan Walker. Probably not going to see a ton of starters in the lineup because of how big this series, early season, this is a big series coming up against the Dodgers, but can't overlook it today. Maybe Taijuan comes out and goes, no, it's not going to happen. Taijuan Walker and the Phillies today versus the Rockies, 105. We'll recap that tomorrow. Sixers are in action tonight against our old pal Doc Rivers and the Bucks. Quick standings update, because this is what we're left with here for the Sixers. They're 2 games up on the Nets for the 6th seed, 2 games back of the Pelicans for the 4 seed, 6 games left to play. Wouldn't it be fitting Doc Rivers comes in here and the Sixers beat him? That would be the most Sixers thing I think you could ever have happen. And now as I'm thinking of it, I'm nervous for this game tonight. But the big news was Joel Embiid is going to have arthroscopic surgery next week on his knee. I think it's next week. I don't know if they've officially said it, but it looks like it's next week. I don't know. And again, this could be the front office. It could be Joe. I don't know, but why do you wait how many months now since he last played in a game to get this surgery if you knew what the knee was? So we'll see. I don't know if it's going to make a difference, but that does lead to today's question of the day. Will Joel Embiid ever play for the Sixers again? I'm not so sure. I think 2 months ago, I'm like, yeah, shut him down, do this, do that. I don't know if we ever see him play again. But what do you think? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Leave a voicemail, send a text message, hit me up on social media. But let me know, will we ever see Joel Embiid play another game for the Sixers? little bit of Eagles news came out yesterday. Nothing earth-shattering, but I think a lot of people were talking about when Howie and Jeffrey Lurie spoke at the owners' meetings and pretty much confirmed what we all saw and what we all knew, that they were doing some cost-cutting, trying to maneuver stuff to get set up to pay some of these young guys who are going to be coming up. And I mean, hey, I don't disagree with it. But the other story, which I kind of like, Howie Roseman came out and said that they don't scout players that have a history of violence against women. And it's interesting. We always talk about the culture and how Jeffrey Lurie said the Eagles are the gold standard, but you don't see a lot of those character issues. I think the biggest controversy is and again, not to minimize it or take anything away, but was the Jalen Carter thing with the accident while he was at Georgia. And it makes sense that the Eagles don't look at these guys. He was like, we don't look at guys that have character issues. And I think you see that. Yes, the Eagles went through the blow-up, meltdown, whatever you want to call it, 2 years ago. But the fact that they had those strong character guys and were able to bounce back from it kind of makes me really appreciate what they do and how they want to do it the right way, and they prioritize character guys and things like that. So wanted to mention that because it's something, like I said, that I truly appreciate. Be sure to check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Lots of good things going on with their sports fan network. Go to clashingconferences.com to go check out what they have to offer, see how you can get involved. It's a very unique, and I can see this being the wave of the future, what they do over there. So go check out Clashing Conferences. Their podcasts are available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. But good things happening with Steven and the crew over there. And then obviously, go shop at Philly Goat. The Tush Push shirts are there. I'm wearing my Schmitties today. Loving these. Like the canvas loafers are good. So go pick up some of the shoes. They look good with shorts. But most importantly, they're comfortable. They got some slides for the pool. You can get their partnership with Double Bogey Down, get some golf shirts. They got you covered at Philly Goat. Lots of great Philly shirts as well. So go to phillygoat.com. Use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, today we're going to go back to 2011. And on this day in 2011, the Phillies beat the Astros 7-3 to complete a 3-game sweep to open the season. Ryan Howard was on fire, went 3 for 5 with a homer, a double, and 4 RBI. Ben Francisco had a home run himself. Placido Polanco had 2 doubles. But the big story was Roy Oswalt, who was making his first start against his former team, went 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, had 6 strikeouts, walked 1, and really showed it to his former team, the Houston Astros. You remember this was the year with the 4 aces, with Lee, Holiday, Hamels, and Oswalt, and poor Joe Blanton was just the 5th guy. No slouch himself. But this sweep for the Phillies was their first 3-game sweep at home to open a season since 1899. Pretty long time there, if you ask me. They set an attendance record. The 3-game attendance was 136,245. For those math majors out there, 45,400 people per game for this opening series. And you remember, the expectations were so high. The Phillies did go out and win 102 games before losing to the Cardinals in the divisional round. But on this day, Phillies did completed the opening series sweep against the Astros, beating them 7-3. Ryan Howard started on offense. Roy Oswalt shut down his former team, going 6 innings, giving up 5 hits, 1 run, and 6 Ks. And then finally today, we continue our discussion with Lenny Wagner. He is the author of Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Era of Sports, chronicles the life of Walter French. And Walter's life is amazing. Just what we've been talking about so far with the A's. Tomorrow we're going to pick up with some football with Walter French. But Walter will be, or not Walter, Walter will not be there. Lenny will be at the Mount Laurel Historical Society on April 8th, next Tuesday at 7 p.m. to do a presentation and a book signing. If you're in the area and want to come see it, I will be there. Hit me up if you do decide to go. But yesterday we talked about how Lenny lost his spot, or not Lenny. Oh my goodness. I'm so immersed in this book. I'm confusing the two. Yesterday we talked about how Walter lost his starting spot to Ty Cobb, but was able to really get a lot of playing time due to some injuries. And then we were kind of leaving it at going into the 1928 season. Today we discuss retirement, Walter returning to the A's, and a dream that Walter had. So here is Lenny to talk about Walter's final days as a member of the Philadelphia Athletics.
And then also in 1927, they had the emergence of the Yankees. The Athletics won 92 games in 1927 and came in 19 games behind the Yankees. And they had changed the way the game was played. All of a sudden now home runs were the big thing. And that really wasn't Walter's game. Walter was more of a, singles hitter and stolen base guy. Really, his game was more geared for the dead ball era than it was the live ball era. And I talk about that a little bit in the book. But in 1928, both Ty Cobb decides to come back for another year for the 28th season, and Tris Speaker is signed by Connie Mack. And then Mack also goes out of his way to try to get some more power hitters, because the discrepancy between the Yankees and the Athletics, which really was what he knew he had to beat the Yankees. And, like Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs in 1927. Al Simmons led the A's in home runs with 15. So, yeah. And so so they know they needed to change the team and the way the game was, because of the way the game was being played. So Walter's playing time in 28 went way down to the point where at the end of the season, he decides he's going to retire and goes to Chicago, works for a couple of weeks for Sears Roebuck in Chicago. It's some desk job, and realizes that as much as he doesn't like sitting on the bench, sitting at a desk, he liked that even less. We were talking about a guy who, aside from being in the military, played professional sports. That's the only jobs he ever had in his life. So he reaches back out to Connie Mack, says, I want to come back. And there's this whole story in the book about how he had this dream that the A's were going to win the World Series. And so Connie Mack brings him back, contacts the commissioner. The commissioner says, okay. Walter joins for the 1929 season and is on the team when they win the World Series. He only played maybe 45 games that year. So he was really used sparingly, but he did get the full the full share of the World Series winning. So the A's won the World Series in 5 games over the Cubs, and he earned about $6,000, which, his salary that year for the whole season was $7,500.
All right. And I've read about the dream. The dream story is great in the book. But thank you, Lenny, as always, this week as we're spotlighting Walter French in celebration of Lenny's book, Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Age of Sports. Basically, the story, life and times of Walter French. And that's basically Walter's career with the Philadelphia Athletics, kind of cut short due to just sort of the evolution of the game. And I can't say this enough. That's why I love this book, because you look at a guy like Walter French, who's fast, can play some defense, and hits 300. He's the prototypical guy that we would want hitting leadoff for this Phillies team right now. But he was sort of the odd man out due to the emergence of Babe Ruth and the emphasis on the long ball. But Walter, still an amazing baseball career, won a World Series. They can't take that away from him. And how about that? Winning a World Series and then doubling your salary for being a role player on the bench. You got to love that. But like I said, tomorrow we'll start focusing on Walter's football career. Just as amazing, and the stories, and like I said, the history that is interwoven in this book is incredible. So go check out Playing with the Best, One Man's Journey Through the Golden Era of Sports. And if you're going to be at Mount Laurel Historical Society to check out Lenny's presentation next week, hit me up, let me know. I will be there as well. On this day in 2011, Phillies beat the Astros 7-3 to complete the 3-game sweep to open the season, their first 3-game sweep at home since 1899. Just ridiculous. But set an attendance record. Unfortunately, they would come up short. Let me know your thoughts on Joe. Will we ever see him play for the Sixers again? I'm not so sure. And it's kind of a tragedy, sad end to his career if this is it. But let me know your thoughts on the Back to the Future voice and text line or any of my social media, 267-495-8531. We'll have more recap of the Phillies Rockies. Hopefully, Taijuan can hold it together as we gear up for this huge weekend series coming up against the LA Dodgers. Don't forget, tomorrow is Fridays with AI. We have a little interview with a Philadelphia legend in honor of the Final Four, so stay tuned for that. But this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for April 3rd, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday. It's going to be beautiful temperature-wise today. It might be a little cloudy, but get out and enjoy it. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.